Have you ever wondered how tobacco, a plant native to the Americas, became a global phenomenon? It all started around 5000 BCE. The indigenous peoples of the Americas, particularly in regions that now comprise Mexico and parts of South America, were the first to cultivate and use tobacco. This was not a casual pastime. Tobacco had a sacred role in these early societies. It was used in various ceremonies as a means of communication with the spiritual world. Medicinally, it was employed as a painkiller and a healing agent. These early peoples had a profound understanding of the plant's properties, and they developed intricate rituals and practices around its use. Tobacco was more than a plant. It was a symbol of their connection with nature and the divine. So the journey of tobacco began in the heart of the Americas, centuries before the arrival of the Europeans. The story of tobacco took a turn in the late 15th century when European explorers first encountered it. Christopher Columbus and other adventurers during their voyages to the Americas stumbled upon a captivating sight. They observed indigenous peoples skillfully rolling and smoking tobacco leaves. This was a practice entirely foreign to them, yet it held an allure that was impossible to ignore. These explorers were so enthralled by the ritualistic use of tobacco that they decided to bring this newfound curiosity back to Europe. This was not just a simple act of sharing, but rather the ignition of a spark that would set off a firestorm of fascination across the continent. The indigenous smoking practices, which had been deeply ingrained in the cultures of the Americas for thousands of years, were now introduced to an entirely new audience. This encounter not only changed the course of tobacco's history, but also had far-reaching implications for societies around the world. This encounter set the stage for the rapid spread of tobacco use across Europe. As demand for tobacco grew in Europe, a new chapter began in the Americas. The tantalizing allure of this newfound leaf led to the establishment of sprawling tobacco plantations across the American colonies. Europeans, eager to satiate their growing appetite for tobacco, started to colonize the Americas with a singular focus: to cultivate the golden leaf. These plantations, stretching as far as the eye could see, were the foundation upon which the modern tobacco industry was built. The lucrative trade of tobacco quickly became the economic backbone of these colonies, with ships brimming with tobacco leaves setting sail for Europe regularly. The colonization of the Americas was thus intrinsically linked to the commercialization of tobacco. The leaf that once held ceremonial and medicinal value for indigenous peoples had now become a commodity, a symbol of wealth and prosperity. Tobacco had not only crossed geographical boundaries, but had also become a major economic force. The Industrial Revolution brought a significant shift in the tobacco industry. This period, spanning the 18th and 19th centuries, was characterized by a transition from manual labor to mechanization in various sectors, and the tobacco industry was no exception. The advent of machines meant that tobacco production could be scaled up like never before. Innovations such as the automated cigarette rolling machine revolutionized the way tobacco was processed. This machine, patented in the late 19th century, could churn out millions of cigarettes in a fraction of the time it would take by hand. The transition to mechanization wasn't just about efficiency, it also led to a standardization of products. Whether it was the length of a cigarette or the amount of tobacco in a cigar, machines ensured consistency. This made the products more appealing to consumers, driving demand and profits. The age of machinery had begun, changing the face of the tobacco industry forever. With the mechanization of tobacco processing, a new era of mass production dawned. This was a time when the tobacco industry began to take on a new shape. Factories started to rise, equipped with cutting-edge machinery designed for cutting, drying, and rolling tobacco. These weren't just factories. They were the beating heart of the industry, the hubs of mass production. The factory floors buzzed with activity as workers operated machines that churned out cigars, cigarettes, and other tobacco products. This was no longer a process confined to small plantations or individual craftsmen. It was an industry operating on a grand scale, transforming raw tobacco into a variety of forms ready for consumption. The mechanization of the industry meant that tobacco products were now more uniform, more affordable, and more readily available than ever before. This was a significant shift, one that would shape the industry for generations to come. The tobacco industry had expanded significantly, and cigarettes were now within reach of the common man. The mid-20th century brought a shift in public perception of tobacco. As scientific knowledge expanded, researchers started to uncover the darker side of tobacco consumption. Studies surfaced linking smoking to a myriad of health issues, from lung cancer to heart disease, fundamentally altering how society viewed this once celebrated plant. These revelations triggered a wave of regulation from governments worldwide. They began implementing measures to mitigate the health risks associated with tobacco use. Warning labels became mandatory on cigarette packs, painting a grim picture of the potential consequences of smoking. Advertising restrictions were put in place, limiting the industry's ability to glamorize their products. Public health campaigns emerged, educating the populace about the dangers of smoking and promoting healthier lifestyle choices. This marked a significant turning point in the history of tobacco. Tobacco, once widely accepted, was now under scrutiny, and the industry had to adapt. In the face of ongoing challenges, the tobacco industry continues to evolve. This evolution is evident in the development of alternative tobacco products, reflecting the industry's attempts to adapt to shifting consumer preferences and health considerations. The rise of electronic cigarettes, heated tobacco products, and smokeless tobacco goods underlines this shift. These alternatives have been designed with a keen eye on risk reduction, aiming to provide consumers with safer options compared to traditional combustible tobacco. Yet, these products are not without their own controversies and health concerns, further complicating the industry's landscape. As societal attitudes towards tobacco use continue to change, the industry is pushed to innovate and diversify. Amid increased regulation and a growing emphasis on public health, the industry's focus is shifting from merely surviving to thriving sustainably. As we look to the future, it's clear that the story of tobacco is far from over.